Hey everyone, it's Nick. Today I'm going to be doing a demo on this amp here, which is amp number 5 for me, and it's a special amp, as it's the culmination of a personal journey of mine that I've called the Marshall Project, in which I decided over the past 4 years to dive into amp building and build 5 classic Marshall circuits, all with modifications and enhancements along the way that are pretty common to what most people do to their Marshalls anyway. This one here is based on a 1959, not just the 1959, but the 1959T Super Tremolo, which has an extra 4th preamp tube. And you can probably see where I'm going with this. There was a fabled modified 1959T from the late 70s that made its way onto some popular albums in the 80s, and people have been questing after that tone ever since. In that circuit, they took the tremolo out and they used 1/2 of that extra preamp tube for an extra gain stage. I went ahead and used both halves of that extra tube to give this amp a tremendous amount of gain, and it's the most amount of gain I've ever built in an amp of mine. And I personally think it sounds great. Going from left to right, the power and standby switch, and then one of the features that I built into this as well is 2 master volumes. So you've got a post-phase inverter master volume, and you've got a pre-phase inverter master volume. And the cool thing is this is on a push-pull pot. This is the pre-master volume, and you can take it out of the circuit and make the whole thing louder. So it kind of gives you a lead boost. And this feature is foot switchable as well. So with it in, again, using the post as your overall volume, having this up around 8 or 9, and then clicking it out of the circuit gives you a lead boost as if it got boosted to 10 or got taken out of the circuit altogether. It's a nice little feature that I really like. After that, you've got your standard tone stack, presence, bass, middle, treble. It is a 2-channel amplifier, and that is foot switchable as well. You have channel 1, gain 1, and channel 2, gain 2. That's your channel switch there. And then there's also a bright switch that you can flip on to kick in an extra bright cap to brighten the amp up if you so desire. The amp also has an effects loop that is bypassable and foot switchable, which is a nice feature. I've got a Boss digital delay running through that. We'll hear how that sounds later. But that's sort of the quick rundown of this amp. Again, it's a special amp for me. As I'm rounding out and completing this project, I'm going to be moving on to different amp designs and get outside the Marshall family and start doing other things. But this has been a lot of fun the past 4 years. So let's see if we can get some sounds out of this thing. Hey everyone. So let's get some sounds out of this amp. What we've got going on is we've got the postmaster volume set on about 2. We've got the presence on about close to 8, not quite. Then we've got bass, middle, and treble on about 7. We've got the pre-master volume, which is currently engaged a little bit past 8. I'm going to show you what happens when you click that off and get your lead boost. Channel 1 gain is on about 10. It's going to get pretty crunchy for us, but I'm going to show you how that cleans up. Channel 2 gains on about 8, and the bright switch is on. So let's go ahead and see what the clean line sounds like. I'm going to show you how it cleans up a little bit. You can see the nice range of tones between clean and crunches on the first channel. Okay, let's go ahead and do the effects loop right now. I've got the effects loop is off. The pedal here, the DD6 digital delay, is on, and I'm going to turn it on with the effects loop. We can hear what it sounds like on channel 1. Alright, let's go ahead and jump into channel 2. I've turned the effects loop off for now. Remember, we've got gain 1 on about 10, but channel 2's gain is only on about 8. And then I'm going to show you what happens when we turn the master volume off. let's go ahead. What I'm going to do is I'm going to play the same passage once with the master volume on, the pre-master volume on, and I'm going to turn the master volume off and hear what the lead boost sounds like. As you can see, it's an interesting effect. It not only gives you a bit of a lead boost, but also kind of drives the amp a little more and gives you a little bit more gain as well, which is an interesting side effect. All right, let's see what the effects loop sounds like on channel 2 as well. We'll go ahead and turn on the effects loop. So that's a pretty good little run through the features and sounds of this amp. I'm going to go ahead and do a video where we get in closer on the front and back panels now. So here's the front of the amp, and I built the cabinet out to go with the classic vintage Marshall look to line up with this the origin of this circuit, the 1959 Plexi. So I've got the gold piping, gold beading, and all that. As you can see, we've got our power and standby. Then we got our post master volume, that's post PI. Then presence, bass, middle, and treble. And then we have our pre-master volume, which is pre-PI, and our 2 gain knobs. We have a channel switch, and the one little switch right there is a bright switch that kicks on a cap to brighten up the tone a little bit. The basic features that are foot switchable, as you see the foot switch here, obviously you got the channel switch that puts us on channel 2, lights up red. And then you've got the effects loop switch here, which turns on the bypassable effects loop. And there we have our green light. The interesting feature is the foot switchable pre-master volume. So right now the light's on, the master volume's in the circuit, and the tone is attenuated by a little bit. It's on about 8.5 maybe out of 10. So once we press that and turn the master volume off, now we've got the amp a little bit louder as if the master volume wasn't in the circuit. I felt this is an interesting feature to build in, kind of like a nice built-in lead boost. So now the master volume is back in and the amp is attenuated just a little bit. All right, let's take a look at the back panel. Sticking with the vintage vibe of the cabinet I've built, you can see we've got the gold mesh back here. Next to the AC jack and fuses, we've got the impedance selector switch. Next to that's the speaker jacks. And then we've got a set of bias point jacks to go along with the quartet of power tubes in this amp. That, coupled with a bias pot that's on top of the amp next to the power tubes, makes it easy to bias the amp without having to take the whole thing apart. Next to that, you've got the effects loop and the controls for that, and the foot switch. The effects loop is pretty full-featured. It's got a pad switch that can attenuate it by about 20 dB if you got a hot signal coming back in. You got a switch to change it from series mode to parallel mode. The bypass switch is next to that. You've got your return and send jacks. Next to that are the send and return control pots, which help you to tailor the sound going out and coming back in to the amp. That's about it for this amp rundown. Hope you've enjoyed it.